Hello, welcome back. This video is going to be about the advantages of having digital media over printed material for teachers to work with in class and online. So the thing to know is that there are quite a few missing features and discrepancies and oversight in course books of mainstream teaching English. And so to keep this video as brief as possible, I'm going to skip the positive aspects of study materials and educational content and go straight to my pet peeves. So note that the following outlines aspects which I already improved in my ebook, ones that I encourage all educators and publishers to reflect on. So without further ado, I present to you how the learning content may be presented to learners in learner-friendly ways. The content, as it is crammed onto a single page, and students often complain that there's not enough space to write, either in the margins, where, let's face it, we all like to write and doodle, or in the gap fill exercises. In digital media, this aspect is easier to get around. Have a pop-up and you can write your notes in there, and then it doesn't take up space in that sense in the book. But also you can use notepads separately and write your notes. Having a book in a digital format saves paper, but then again, paper is useful in educational contexts. And the problem of too little space for gap fill exercises is solved. Another aspect is the use of hyphenation at the end of a line, splitting a word between lines. Believe it or not, there is no distinction made in publishing jargon or publisher's jargon between hyphenation and splitting a word between lines. It's not the same. Yet the hyphenation that occurs at the end of a line is just there for aesthetic reasons to keep things looking neat. But they're sacrificing layout for fluency, or I should say the other way around. Fluency of reading is sacrificed for better looking things on the page. And especially for lower level students, it's vital that students read a whole sentence without stumbling on some extra punctuation indications that are not really solely linguistically related. So that's one thing to consider. The justification on the page doesn't justify better reading and educational things. So let's go on. The same goes for breaking up sentences onto two lines. So when only one or two words begin a sentence at the end of a line and then continues on the next line, I think for lower levels, it's important that a whole sentence be read on one line. And simple sentences can be put on one line. And so single lines, line by line, even if it means for content creators and publishers taking up more pages. With digital media, there's no problem with that. Even justified margins in the body of text should be scrapped, sacrificing more square layout, for lack of a better word, for more educational layout, as I mentioned, where a sentence may be read without break. Justification, believe it or not, has some learners stumbling. The third point, while adding colorful images may serve to inspire more spoken discourse as well as aid with comprehending topics and contexts, in digital media, these images could be offered as pop-ups, and this would allow learners and teachers to focus on either the image or the text. For example, you could pop up an image as a prediction activity. Punctuation marks. Avoid using specifically the oblique stroke or forward slash when it involves a variety of functions. Pearson publishers use the forward slash to separate chunks of words, but also to indicate where a learner is expected to add a word or conjugate or inflect verbs and so on, or plurals, when actually the oblique stroke, really what it means is or. Instead of a simple underscore mark could be used to indicate a gap or something to be completed. Next, instead of commas to indicate a series of possible words or synonyms, I use a vertical bar to indicate alternative words. Let me just show you how that looks. So here you can see synonyms. It's all Greek to me. If some concept is so deep or profound and far too complex, intricate, and difficult to describe in words, we say it's above one's head. It's above my head, beyond my grasp. And so here in my ebook, you can see some synonyms for that concept. And what I've done is separated these synonyms with not an oblique stroke, but a vertical bar. It looks better than simply commas, and an oblique stroke is wrong because it would be saying or. So if you're using antonyms, use an oblique stroke. Moving on. Unnecessarily complicated prompts using for example is a particular peeve of mine, responsible for learners saying for example for everything, just about everything, everywhere. And this probably comes from textbooks. Just as in my opinion is a one that we see all the time, non-native speakers using in my opinion, just because it's such an expression that's been put in course books that actually in authentic English is not much used. So putting commas where there needn't be or leaving them out is another aspect that should be fixed. The comma serves a purpose. I'm sure that I'm not alone in my views and confident that rationale should inspire others working in the field to adopt new and improved strategies and aids for content creation for educational advancement. Overall, I don't see why more thought hasn't been put into the above mentioned. Finally, when at least some of the above is implemented, teachers will need to actually teach learners how to read, and specifically to observe the punctuation. I've had countless students of mine read aloud, and they really are clueless about the function of English punctuation. It's so crucial, they need to know how to read. The majority have never been told the function of the comma. They don't even pause and breathe after a paragraph break, let alone a full stop. They don't know that in English, a comma serves to indicate a pause, and in most cases, a breath, except when reading a series of words or when two commas separate a conjunction to only breathe at the second. When a comma lies before an adverbial in final position is also another one you don't need to breathe at. Only teachers are to blame for this, providing that commas are accurately placed by the editors. This should be taught. As in the above final bullet points, there should be no need for excessive punctuation. So you needn't have a closed parentheses followed by another punctuation mark and so on, except maybe a full stop right at the end of the list of bullet points. And the same goes for excessive punctuation after a number or digit in this case. Teachers need to point out discrepancies in the books they are given to teach from, if not directly to learners, to the publishing companies who make big bucks and put so little effort into serving the learners by improving the books and putting themselves in the learner's shoes, or then to take off their shoes and the learner's shoes especially to see how much we sweat. So the teacher all too often has to adapt every explanation, exercise, and activity to make it much easier for the learners. And so if some of these ideas were implemented in future, I think it would be to the advantage of everyone. Thanks for watching.